Kane, what were his last words?
Well, oh, I remember. The nurse heard it. It was nanoparticles.
Nanoparticles. Maybe it was a woman. Maybe it was something that that he lost. You, go find out.
Nanoparticles. How in the world am I going to find out what this means? Well, maybe UV-VIS spectroscopy can help me. I'll start by gathering my materials. I'll need my sample, pair of gloves, a cuvette, a few pipettes, a waste beaker, and some deionized water. Next, I'll need to log into the UV-VIS computer using this username and this password using the correct sentences. We're in. So now I'm going to open up Windows and I'm going to go here to Scan and click on Scan. And here we go. I hear the machine buzzing and we're getting started. Now, important part is making your own folder. I've clicked on folders and under data I've gone to this folder, Chem 161 IL 2024. If you're watching this in the future, then do whichever one. Now, once you're in the main folder, you're going to make a new folder, and you're going to title it with your name and with the date. I'm going to name mine Kane. Wait. Citizen Kane. Nanoparticles. So now that I have this folder, I'll be able to save my things. You can see there it is. Now it's time to set up the scan. Here we'll go to, you guessed it, setup. Here we're going to start by selecting our range of wavelengths. I'm going to leave it here from 800 to 200, but you can change it as you'd like. Next, we're going to make sure that single beam is selected. Oftentimes when the software is started, it'll have dual beam selected. We're going to keep it with single beam. Now here in scan controls, we have the speed of which are scanned. So these fast speeds will quickly check at different wavelengths and give us a graph. While here, they may average the same wavelength separate times. This will give us cleaner data, while this will give us fast and easy to read data. Next, we're going to go with baseline. If you recall, water or whatever solvent you're using may have some normal noise. So to correct for this, we're going to change and we're going to click baseline correction. Now when we push OK, we're going to get an error message. It's going to say that there is no baseline, which is good. So what we do now, we're going to push OK and we're going to push baseline. Now it's going to give us instructions. Insert a blank sample to complete the scan. Now, for our first sample, I have my cuvette, and whenever you use the cuvettes, you want to use gloves, because getting finger oils is a good way to mess up your results. So, I've used a chem wipe, and I've wiped this down. Now, an important thing you'll remember is that you always want to have the same side being used. Now, if you see here, is it there? There you go. There's a small Q in the top right corner. So I'm going to make a mental note to myself. I'm always going to have the Q facing me. Now I'm going to fill it with our solvent, which in this case is water. Kane liked using water for his nanoparticles. Now, if you notice, I'm using deionized water, right? I want it as clean of water as we can get. So now I'm going to make sure it's dry on all sides, and I'm going to put it into machine. To insert a sample, we're going to slide this open, and if you see here, there's that little square, keeping that Q toward me. I'm going to insert it all the way down, close this. Now that we've had our sample inserted, we can go ahead and push OK. Now what this is doing, if we hear the machine, is that it's running and it's giving us a baseline. Great. Now that we've done this, we can begin our samples. Now, go ahead and empty out our cuvette into our waste beaker. And now I'm going to get a sample. I'm going to take some of my nanoparticles, and I'm going to go ahead and, with one hand, I'm going to load the cuvette. I want to get it about 2/3 the way up. That'll be good. And now we have our sample loaded. Again, I'm going to make sure it's dry on all sides, and I'm going to keep the cue toward me, and I'm going to enter our first sample. Now, with the first sample entered, there's going to be a little bit of setup. So what we do is we push start, and it's going to ask us to choose a folder. So again, I'm going to go to data. I'm going to go to 160/2024. There we go. I'm going to click Kane, and I'm now going to name this Kane Nanoparticles 2924. And now I have this saved. Now it's going to ask for the sample name. So again, Kane NP sample 1. Now when you push enter or OK, we're going to get our first run. Now, as you can see, we have this nice peak right there. From this point, we have two options. Assuming you have more than one sample, you'll simply take this out, put it in waste, make sure your cuvette's clean, and add your next sample. At which point, you can push OK and name the second sample. If you see here, it actually names, it would name it again, Kane Nanoparticles 2. What I've done now is I've gotten a dilution of my nanoparticle sample with its solvent, which of course is water. And now I'm going to name this sample Kane Nanoparticles Dilution. There we go. Okay. And what we should see is a similar peak, but much smaller. And so, right, you can see that. It's the same shape with those two little humps, except now it's down. So if we had started up super high, we can do a dilution to get a much better sample. So from this point, when we're done, we're going to hit finish. And now we'll have to export the data. So what I want to do is I want to go to File, and I want to save my data as. So again, in this, the important thing is the different types of ways that we can save this. Now, what we want to save this as is as a CSV file, or a comma separated value file. This is going to allow us to put our information into Excel. So I'm going to name this Kane Nanoparticles. So now that we have this saved, we need to get this off of the computer. So I have a thumb drive here. I'm going to insert it. Let's see. There it is. And now I'm going to go down to the files. Oh, it's there. Okay. Oh. Folder to files. And already what it's going to do is that it's going to show me what's already on this disk, right? So in this case, there's all sorts of different things. Now I'm going to make a folder in here, and now I'm going to go down to my file. Right, I'm going to go to the IL, Citizen Kane Nanoparticles, and I'm going to make sure I get my CSV. Now this scan file here, if you want to reopen this graph in the UV-VIS, you'll click that. But for me, I just want this comma separated value. So I'm going to go back down here on this side to the disk, and I'm going to put it here in this AJ cubed folder. Drag it out. Boom. Now we see it's in there. Now, of course, remember when you remove a disk, you have to right-click it and click eject. It'll tell you that it's safe to remove, and then you can remove it. Now you'll just need to take this and insert that CSV file into an Excel sheet, where then you can graph and analyze the data. So I hope that's helpful. Thanks. Well, I was able to find the absorbance spectrum of Kane's nanoparticles, but it didn't seem to help me understand him anymore. Maybe a man that complex with so much power can't be described with just one word. What was nanoparticles to him? Could be anything. Maybe it was just one lost piece in a puzzle he was trying to solve.